Hey everybody. All right, we're gonna get started in a minute. If someone could please raise their hand just so I know that my sound is working, that I'm not speaking into outright space here, that'd be great. Oh, thank you, Sophia. All right, one more minute, a few more seconds. All right, let's get started. So welcome everybody. I am introducing my class that's starting off in September. And I want to give you some updates about what we've been up to at the Kalish Institute, how this class is different than all the other classes, and what this class is like. So this is a tour of the course, and I want to try to do something different tonight, which is to actually show you what a live call is like. So we're going to do a little sample version of what the live Q&As are like. So I'm going to introduce myself first, then we'll talk about the class, then we'll do some workshop-y, example-y stuff. And so this is me, Dan Kalish. I am in this amazing position professionally now, which I never imagined or planned I would be in. So I'm actually an Institute for Functional Medicine practice implementation faculty member. I'm in fact the lead faculty member. And it's probably the biggest honor and privilege that one could have. Been sitting in front of IFM teachers my entire career to be on that stage. I don't even know how to describe it. It would be like how a 16-year-old guitar player would feel if, Jimmy Page said, "Come up on stage and play with me, let's rock out." So I'm on the world's biggest stage for our industry, and I'm really excited about that. And this is a great time to get involved in the Kalish Institute because we have a lot of momentum, a lot of good things are going on. I've also been in practice for a long time, and I teach from a clinical standpoint, other clinicians, no BS, just straight up how this stuff works. I saw patients all day today for real. I had patients that got better today. I had patients that didn't get better today. So there's a lot of problem solving. It's an ongoing process. Just because you've been doing this for 25 years doesn't mean people just waltz in and out and get better miraculously, right? There's a lot of hard work involved in this. And that's what the teaching is all about. I've trained over 1,000 doctors. I kind of understand how this works. I actually did a research study with the Mayo Clinic, as crazy as that may sound. I was the lead investigator, principal investigator in a research study on the Kalish method at the Mayo Clinic. We have copies of that if you guys are curious, you want to see it. So I'm not really an academic though, although I guess I can function like one. I did a research study. So the class itself, and let me talk a little bit about where we're at. So so much is happening. So there's a man named Richard S. Lord. He's a scientist that wrote this book, Laboratory Evaluations for Integrative and Functional Medicine. And Dr. Lord is also the scientist that developed the first organic acids test, which we call either an organics profile or a NutriVal, depending on which one you're using. He's the doctor that first developed and or practitioner, the scientist that first developed the GI effects test, which is the most widely used test in our industry right now. And so I tracked down Richard out of retirement about 2 years ago, and he and I work together now every Monday all day, reviewing cases. He's teaching me all the more advanced levels of his work. And so now when I speak in class, and we'll do some of these lab evaluations in a moment, I'm really speaking from a level of authority of the man that developed these tests. And Richard is in retirement. He's really chosen me to sort of carry on his work and be a representative for his efforts in the world. And you really don't get a higher level compliment than that either. He's an incredible human being, and it's become a big part of my life. And he's become a big part of the Kalish Institute because all the new curriculum that we're developing is based on Richard's latest 5 or 10 years of research. And so, if you do these classes now, you not only get access to me and the stuff that I know and the kind of in the trenches working with patients stuff, but every week you get a major influx of the latest research from Richard Lord that I communicate. I basically talk to him on Monday for several hours, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, I teach what he taught me on Monday. And it's a unique opportunity for all of you to have direct access through me to Richard Lord. And the level of his understanding is truly phenomenal. I mean, he's literally the scientist that made up the test that we use, right? He's the researcher that's behind all this, and he hasn't stopped researching. He's working 7 days a week now, basically as the, my business partner calls him the one-man wrecking crew for, he's like the one-man wrecking crew of Kalish Institute's research department, basically, is kind of what it's turned into. And with it, my mom, he's treating me like his son, basically. He really wants me to carry on his work, and he knows that I will in a very dedicated way. So we have Richard on the team now. Doesn't get better than that. And as of about 2 weeks ago, something even bigger, well, equally big and great happened, which is there's a woman many of you know, Dr. Christy Hughes. And Christy's been one of the head IFM medical education directors for the last 10 years. Christy Hughes is the one that developed first line therapy like 20 years ago. Christy is a fireball. She is really, in my mind, one of the best, if not the best educators in our field. And she's coming on to the Kalish Institute faculty. Not making this up. This is actually happening. So Christy and I are going to start to teach together. Again, like, it's just unreal. She is, just an absolute rock star. I mean, if you've ever been to an IFM event, you've probably met her or seen her on stage because she is the host behind a lot of these things. So we've got Christy coming on board. We've already got Richard Lord for the last couple of years. It's a lot more than just about the Dan show now. It's a lot about these other people and this kind of deeper level of work. Okay, and it's an exciting time. And so in addition to all this, I've done a lot of curriculum development, and I want to share some of that with you tonight so you can see where we're at and what we've been doing. Now, I'm going to give you a little tour, okay, of what you get when you pay for this class. And I've also structured the pricing of the course to be something that you're going to feel was worth every penny. If I do my job properly, you should see a return on investment. In other words, the money that you spend for the class should come back to you in new patient income before the class is over. So my hope is that the class is sort of pays itself. Okay, that's really what we're looking for. So there's three huge components to the actual course. There's the curriculum, which we're looking at now. If we were a regular college, that would be like the lecture halls. Like you have to go to lecture twice a week for your physics class or whatever, right? We also then have a community feature, which is more like the lab. It's the interactive component, like a lab in a physics class or a biology class would be. And then we have the live weekly Q&A calls where you get all your questions answered. That's more like a discussion group. Okay, so I want to show you each element of the curriculum. It's massive. It takes a few weeks for most people just to get their minds around what we've actually built here, okay? So it's a little overwhelming. It's understandable. It is for everybody. But after the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to just sit back and go, wow, this is really an incredible amount of well-orchestrated information. At first, it's a little overwhelming. So let's start with a curriculum. This is a 1-year curriculum. It's a 1-year mentorship. You can do a 6-month version of it. I don't usually recommend that unless you're absolutely not sure about your life. But most people do the full year program. And I'll go through each module and each section so you can see. And again, it's a little overwhelming, but we'll take it slow here, all right? So we have the orientation, the walkthrough, kind of getting familiar with the software. We have a very robust software program. We start off with the basics, functional medicine philosophy. I have a treatment map, all the systems and organization, really big emphasis on patient communication skills throughout the entire course. Okay. We get into some of the basic physiology and lifestyle issues, look at the supplements that you're going to be using throughout the course, and then we get into the real content. Adrenals, how cortisol works, adrenals, how to correct them, adrenals, thyroid, adrenals, how to deal with thyroid, how the thyroid and adrenals interact. So we start off with a pretty strong endocrine section. Then we get into female hormones, and then we start to look at GI pathogens, okay, and GI bugs. And then there's a pretty extensive section on parasites and bacteria, on food and diets, food addiction, food reactions, female hormones already mentioned. And then we're about 6 months into the class now, okay? So I'm kind of going fast. There's a midterm, ouch, little bit of exam. The exams are more like are you paying attention exams? They're not like study for that exam, And then the last half of the class, the last half of the year, second half of the year is on organic acids. But that's a lot, right? So organic acids means we go through that test, every individual marker, so you understand it inside and out. We get into the treatment methodologies behind it. We talk extensively about detoxification. A lot of work on detoxification. Most all your patients are going to need that. Hours and hours of lectures on that. Then, but practical, like how you actually do this stuff. And then one of my favorite subjects we spend quite a bit of time on neurotransmitter balancing, how to assess and treat the brain. Doesn't get more important than that. And then we look at mitochondrial energy and all the latest research on mitochondria. Richard Lord has really kind of pioneered some new work in this area that's profound, and we're getting into that, these hypometabolic states, things that really aren't written in any of the books yet. He hasn't, well, that's not actually true. So when I first met Richard, right, he was rewriting this book, and I kind of, in my own sneaky little Dan way, convinced him, instead of focusing on this, to write a series of clinical handbooks. And he and I, for the last 2 years, have been collaborating on these clinical handbooks, and we've got 2 of them done. There's one on GI and one on organic acids, and they're like all the latest research, and anyways, that's kind of like an exclusive thing that I will be teaching as part of the course, okay, Richard's new work. So we get a lot into mitochondria, energy replacement, and then some stuff on nutrient replacement. Okay, so that's the actual 1-year curriculum. It's very organized. It's like going to a bunch of lectures. Each week you listen to those lectures. Each week you get new information, and you kind of bring that into class and ask questions about it in class, just like a regular class. You get access to this entire year curriculum when you first sign up. As soon as you pay us, you get access to the entire year. If you want to go through this entire 1-year curriculum in 60 days, you can, and I've seen doctors do it. It's doctors that, number one, don't have children, right? They have a lot of free time. And number two, are kind of anxious to get through the material. So if you're in that situation and you don't have to spend your weekend taking care of kids and driving to soccer games and stuff, or like in my case, driving to crew practices every Saturday and Sunday, if you're kind of free of that, then you can go through this year-long curriculum as quickly as you want, okay? And it's a huge amount of material. It's all lectures, and it's all recorded. Okay, so that's phase 1. That's the lectures. The second thing that you get, which in some ways is, I don't know if this is better. It's hard to tell. People like this as much or more, I think, as a lecture, is the actual community. So the community is all the other doctors that are in the course connecting with one another, all right? And in the community, we have these resources, these resource sections that are really quite phenomenal. All right, so first of all, I have the entire curriculum organized in what I call a treatment map, so that as you're going through the class, you've seen a really organized, systemized way how to apply this clinically. So let's say it's the second month of the course, and you get a patient that has a detox problem, and you want to know, well, I don't want to wait until 6 months from now when I do the detox classes. You can go right to the protocols, right to the supplements, and navigate around through the curriculum based on what your clinical presentations are of the patients that are in front of you. Right? So this is really important. And then we have a case study library, which at this point I think has over 2,000 cases. So if you just think of anything, fertility. I had a bunch of fertility patients today. You type in fertility, you will see case study after case study. Here's case study number 1676. Math professor challenges and has autoimmune thyroid. Fertility concerns with a fluky 208 lab. Every one of these case studies, okay? Case study number 987 is in a video format, and they're also all transcribed. So they're all written out. Literally thousands and thousands of case studies. When people see this, they freak out. This is actually probably access to the case study library is worth the entire cost of the course. Okay, because when you get a patient that has, I don't know, just pick anything. Let's say you have someone that's your first case of Giardia, and they have H. pylori too. I don't know, I'm making this up. And you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, oh, look at this. What a surprise. Case number 1808. I made this one up. I didn't even know this was here. 1825. The patient has E. histo, Giardia, and H. pylori. Okay, and so you can listen to that, watch that video, and this is a huge amount of information in this case study library. Thousands of cases, all on video and all transcribed. And I feel like we're selling Ginzu knives here, but that's not all. In addition, you get this whole other ridiculous thing that I've worked on for the last 12 years, which is a clinical topics section. And this is just like every topic you could ever think about that's super cool. Patient communication lectures, ones on functional genomics, review of an ion panel, evaluating technological applications in medical clinics. And that's me interviewing a CEO of a coaching organization. Autoimmune patients, that's me interviewing a very famous autoimmune doctor. Double Trouble, that's a lecture I gave years ago on food addiction and chemical dependency. Oh, this is a really good one. We just did this one with Lisa McDonald on hiring and firing. That was super cool. So like if you're, I'll just type in here. Let's say you're about to hire somebody and you're like, I don't know how to hire people, because who does, right? There's a lecture on hiring and managing the A team, me interviewing an expert in hiring for an hour. And guess what? When we did the hiring lecture, she was so good. I was like, would you come back and do the firing talk? How to fire people. We all have to fire people. I fired tons of people. You got to fire people in the right way or you're going to be in serious trouble. So anything, whether it's H. pylori or how you're going to fire somebody or what kind of EMR do you really need, we have just endless gobbles and information just over and over. And this is all like the real stuff. This is either me interviewing people, doctors in our community saying, stuff, it's MDHQ, power to practice versus this versus that, right? And you get really accurate information in here. You have access to all this. Okay, so that's pretty intense. That's the community feature. So we have the curriculum, which is actually the lectures. It's more like the textbook, right? But it's all in video format. We have the community, which is the interactive portion. And then the third aspect of this is the live calls. Okay, so I want to show you what a typical live call is like. And I thought, well, why don't I just show you? Oh, no, there's one other thing I got to show you curriculum-wise before we do the live call thing here. Sorry. This is really important. So last year, I came into my office and my class said, this is like 2 years ago maybe, my class said, Dan, we need a new lower budget class, something in the $2,000 or $3,000 range. And I said, well, that's not a problem. Why don't we just take the first module out of the mentorship and just use that? And they're like, no, you can't do that. We run a new program, a brand new class. And I fought this for a long time, but eventually they won because I don't know, because I trust them and they probably were right. So I was like, okay, I will go off into the wilderness and I will write up a whole new program, a whole new class. And that became this Fundamentals of Functional Medicine class. And honestly, we sold like 3 of them or whatever. And then at some point I was like, you know what, this is so important. We're just going to put this information in the mentorship. So this is a whole new portion of the mentorship. It's not part of the regular curriculum. We're also kind of offering this as a special thing for $2.99 now. Some of you may have actually purchased this already, okay? And this is going to be a new kind of updated version of this fundamentals class is now part of the mentorship as well. And so it's got basic information, which I thought was so basic that I did not include it in the original mentorship, but stuff that some people really need. Big focus on finding your purpose. Okay, what are you all about? What do you want to do? And then module 2 gets into patient interaction, patient communication, sales techniques. Section number 3 gets into how to prescribe supplements, how to do the basics of clinical nutrition. A lot of people don't know that. If you haven't been around clinical nutrition for a long time, this may be new information for you. And then again, if you have not been doing supplement program design for years and years, then I developed a whole supplement program design component as well. Right. And the reason why this is new is because if you go back historically and you look at, how functional medicine developed with the old timers like me, in the early 1990s, 1992, if you went to a functional medicine conference, it was all chiropractors, 80, 90% chiropractors, a couple of medical doctors, and a couple of acupuncturists. That's just how it was in the early 90s. And so the chiropractors were all doing nutritional stuff already. They were all doing clinical nutrition already. They're just coming to these new and amazing Jeffrey Bland seminars and learning about functional medicine. And so in the first 5 years of me doing this, everybody had really strong clinical nutrition backgrounds. And so, I don't know, it never occurred to me when I designed the courses to put into it some of these basic ideas. But now we have a lot of practitioners coming into functional medicine that haven't studied the basics of clinical nutrition for 5 or 10 years already. Okay, it's not like the chiropractor of 1992 anymore. And so for that, I've created the fundamentals class. And as an outshoot or outgrowth of that class, we also collaborated with several supplement companies to make this easier for you. And so I have like a cheat sheet for each one of the different supplement companies that we've partnered with that goes through the 50 products that you need to understand. This happens to be Metagenics. We also have one for Designs for Health. and we also have one for pure encapsulations. So it's a 50 must-know supplements that are part of this sort of fundamental initiate. It's almost like a prereq class that I developed. Okay, and there are also some special deals. If any of you guys were referred over by Metagenics, you should email or call my office. We're doing some special things with the Metagenics folks now. We're also really working diligently and carefully with pure encapsulations and designs for health. Okay, so if you're referred over by one of the companies, let us know and we can tell you what some of the special offers are for students that come through the various supplement companies. All right, so let me review that really quick because I just went through a lot of stuff. Let me just review. So when you sign up for the class, you get a whole bunch of different things. One of the things that you get is the community feature here, right? Which is the case studies, the extra clinical topics, all the interviews, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of stuff. I mean, like literally thousands of hours of stuff. It's all transcribed, it's all written up, and it gets to the point of craziness. Like, let's say you put in legal. I've got interviews with the best attorney in our industry. These are worth a couple grand alone. Okay, because he charges $500 an hour to talk to him. And we've got hour after hour on legal issues in here as well. Okay, so there's just a ton of stuff you can get out of the community. And then we have the lectures themselves, the year-long curriculum. We get access to all that right away when you sign up. And then we have the live Q&A calls. So let me show you what a live Q&A call is like, and then I'm gonna go through some of the questions that came in. And if you have questions, please ask them. You can type in the question. I can unmute you. If you want me to unmute you, just raise your hand and you can talk. But let's go through what a sample class is like first. Then I'll look at all the questions. There are some questions that came in, and you're welcome to ask others. Okay, so it's your live. You've gone out. You've paid for the class. You're in the class. You've listened to a few hours of lectures for that week. You got in some labs maybe. You listen. Watch some of the case studies and you looked up thyroid and you read about thyroid or listened to the videos about thyroid for a while. So you're kind of in the groove of doing this class. And then you get some labs back and you're like, oh, I'm going to send these in to get reviewed. So the live Q&A call, and this is from this morning or yesterday. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. This is from Tuesday morning. It's a couple days ago. Okay. Lisa B., one of the doctors, sent in a case. It's an 18-year-old kid. He's a male, just graduated from high school. He's on all these drugs. He's on all these supplements. He had a negative Lyme disease test, blah, blah, blah. His major symptoms are extreme fatigue, dizziness, memory loss. He's 18 years old. He gained 50 pounds in third grade. Whew. All right, so this kid is not doing really well, right? Verbally abusive father, parents got divorced, blah, blah, blah. And so she's asking some questions here. In green, you can see her question. Would you take him off all the other supplements while he's doing our program? And then she submits the labs. So we have this poor kid's lab. This is his adrenal test. And in class on Tuesday morning, we went over this test, talked about what it meant, how to treat him. Gosh, he's a stage 3. His total cortisol production is an 8. That is not very good. That matches his symptoms, though. This kid is burned out and not in very good shape. So we designed a program for him based on the adrenals. She also submitted his organic acids test. And so you look at this test, and she circled a bunch of stuff. But usually, at least in the beginning, that first year, practitioners really want, my advice. And my advice now, again, for 20 years, it's been like Dan's way, Dan's ideas, which were good. And I've managed to train a lot of doctors on that. But, in the last 2 years now, when I say stuff, it's because Richard Lord taught it to me. So I've up-leveled my clinical skills in the last 2 years to the point where I almost feel like I have superpowers. I mean that, for reading these labs, because I understand the depth of these only in the way that you could understand by studying with the man that created this test. Okay, so anyways, Richard and I go over these regularly on Mondays. This guy's got this hypometabolic pattern, his mitochondria are all screwed up, and really, there's a big, big problem here with dopamine and epinephrine, norepinephrine. Okay. She said serotonin here, but that's wrong. So epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine issue makes sense. This kid can barely think, right? And also, when you're low in dopamine, people tend to massively overeat and get fat. So we got a lot of work to do on his neurochemistry, a lot of work to do on his mitochondria. And then here's the single worst thing that can happen on these labs. The single worst thing that can happen on these labs is a low sulfate. So this gets an extra red flag here, okay? Just put little red marks all around it. So again, on an organic acids profile, if you ever see low sulfate, it's the single worst thing that can happen because it indicates glutathione collapse. Okay, this whole system is falling apart. I didn't even know that until about 2 years ago. How did I learn that? Because Richard Lord taught it to me. Okay, do we trust Richard? Well, he did invent the test. Yeah, I think he's basically the scientist that understands this. And I don't know that Richard ever really sat down for 2 years and taught someone day in and day out and day in and day out every single thing that he knows. So he's really trying to make a difference for me. And I only say this over and over again because the only reason Richard's training me is so I can train you. Okay, that's the bargain that we have struck. So anyways, single worst thing that can happen, low sulfate, glutathione collapse, that explains a lot of his symptoms as well. So clearly for this poor kid, if we can get his glutathione levels back up, right, with high dosages, aggressive dosages of sulfur-containing amino acids, and we can get his dopamine and epinephrine and norepinephrine levels back up with aggressive and high levels of tyrosine and the herb mucuna, you could turn this kid's case around, in a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe a couple months. So that's what we do in class. We just go through the labs and we call out what's wrong. And then I'll just show you some more examples here. Again, this was just from Tuesday. So in this case, the doctor submitted the actual program that she wanted to do, and then I just make comments on it. It's like, yeah. And she got all these protocols right out of the class, okay? All the protocols are in the class. I'll show you when you get your lab back in and you're wondering what to do, you simply go to the protocol section of the class. And where is that? I'll show you real quick here. It's all pretty organized. If you saw my my office, you'd think this guy's not organized, but I'm organized in terms of how I structure the IT section here. So as you go to case, let me see, treatment map, and all the protocols are right here on this page. So if the person's toxic or has glutathione collapse, you just go to the protocols under detox, and it's all right there. There they are. And you just click on it and the protocol pops right up and you know exactly what to do. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. And we just click on detox. And there's the actual protocol. And it's all written out for you. You watch the video, boom, you're done. All right. And that's basically what she did. She went and she looked up all the protocols, she wrote them down, and then we just kind of said, hey, yeah, that's about what you should be doing. Let's look at the next case here. Lisa, again, submitted this. I think Lisa's background is as a medical doctor, if I remember right. Weight gain, this is a patient, 46-year-old female school teacher, weight gain, anxiety, short fuse, female hormone issue, low sex drive. Again, an adrenal panel, again, a stage 3. So now we know right off the way Lisa's got some pretty messed up patients, right? So another person's going to, needs a stage 3 adrenal protocol. You'll look at the stage 3, how do you know, what do you do about that? Well, you just go to the community and you go to the adrenal protocol page. That's pretty easy. There it is, stage 1, stage 2, up, stage 3 adrenal protocol. Click, boom, you got it, you're done. And then in this case, she's written it up here nicely, right? That's a stage 3 adrenal protocol, including some meditation, great idea, a Whole30 diet, great idea, etc. Here's Claire's case that she submitted, 72-year-old retired accountant on a bunch of medications, same exact thing. And Claire's asking, please review what I started her on, what should I do next, help interpret the labs. She's got some more lab work out there. Again, we got a salivary cortisol test. We go over that. And in this case, we had a GI-effects lab. Who invented the GI-effects test? Who spent his entire career building that test? Richard Lord. Who does Dan talk to every Monday? Richard Lord. So we've got some pretty unique insight into this test now. Most especially this commensal bacteria section. A lot of information on this page that you can process and really help correct people's microbiomes. Okay, so there's a lot of information on the lab you can work with. And let's see. Claire submitted another case here. So 27-year-old phone person, again, an adrenal lab. Ooh, look at that. I remember this. This was just a few days ago. Can you imagine living like that? Cortisol up, cortisol down, cortisol up. That is not a pleasant life experience. There's a specific supplement that drops down that high cortisol. There's a specific supplement that'll drop down that high cortisol. We use DHEA and pregnenolone to balance out these horrible adrenal panels, and you get some clinical results pretty quickly. Another GI effects test, and on it goes, okay? And I'll just show you, we also have classes in the afternoon. Here's our afternoon group from Tuesday. Carrie submits a lab, 58-year-old female. She's on Synthroid, Zyrtec. She's depressed. She's got a rash. She's got a GI map test. Oh, I remember this case. This was a good one because we're all thinking rash, stress. She's going to have a yeast overgrowth. Didn't have a yeast overgrowth. Didn't have a yeast overgrowth. In fact, her GI test was like almost perfect. However, we don't have it here. However, we figured out that the main component was coming from stress. Okay, so she did an adrenal program. This was a good case, actually. This is kind of a good teaching case because let me just show you up here. This is really interesting. Now let's look. So she got this horrible rash, right? And then she's depressed and anxious. And it started when her daughter left for college, and then her mother-in-law just died all of a sudden. And then the patient, I think, is a nurse or a doctor. I forget. I think she's a nurse, but she was the one that had to make the decision about life support, right, for the mother-in-law. So it's a huge amount of stress. No. The patient's a medical doctor. Okay, so the patient is a medical doctor, and so it fell upon her as the medical doctor of the family to decide about taking her mother-in-law off of life support, and her daughter's gone, totally depressed about this, and then boom, her, her skin erupts with all these problems. And we're thinking, gosh, she's gonna have a candida overgrowth, and no, it's just straight up adrenal case. That was a good one. I'll show you just one or two more. I know I'm going kind of fast. When do you just kind of get the idea? This is Verona. She's in, I think she's Australian. She Australian or New Zealander? I forget, one of those. Anyways, who's the patient? Is a 68-year-old retired person. Lots of stress. Daughter is on methadone. Blah blah blah. Kind of high stress with the family situation. Daughter with drug problems. And then Verona sent in a whole bunch of questions. Low B6 and B12. How does it affect methylation and glutathione? What's the dosage required? Neurotransmitters. The brain is inflamed. What is it? There's so much need. Here's great. This is Verona just being honest in class, right? There's so much needed. I'm not sure if she will cope with lots of supplements. What are the priorities of treatment? That's great. And we can sit down for 10 minutes online and talk about it because this woman's got everything under the sun wrong with her. How the heck do you know where to start? Are you going to treat her fat metabolism problem, her mitochondrial problem? In this case, I think we settled on working with her brain. Why? Because every single one of the brain markers but one were abnormal. So her brain has got an epinephrine problem, a dopamine problem, a serotonin problem. Her brain is inflamed, right? It's just like brain, 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 brain. So we agreed we're going to work on the brain. And part of the class is just going through what's the priorities here. You can't work on all these things. What's the priorities? And remember, the number one thing that goes wrong with these labs that's the most significant is when sulfate is low. And this poor woman had this triad of badness. Alpha hydroxybutyrate, pyroglutamate, and sulfate were all low, all of them. That is the worst thing that can happen to the human body, right? Glutathione now is just vanished. And so if we can get her glutathione levels up, get her neurotransmitters balanced, you're going to have a whole different human being on your hands. And this is basically what we do for an hour every week, 2 hours every week, whatever it takes. Jody sent in a lab. The patient is a physiotherapist. And so we went through that, adrenal panel, and just goes, on and on throughout the whole evening. And we'll spend as much time as it takes to go through every case. Every question gets answered on every week. Oh, this was a good one. This was a serotonin person. And then let's see. Juliana sent in a test. And just goes on and on and on. Okay. This was a female hormone panel, a month-long female hormone panel. And that's basically what the live calls are like. It's just hour after hour, week after week of going through the actual cases that you guys are doing. Philip has sent in the case. This was a particularly busy night, Tuesday night. The Tuesday night group is pretty active, so we just, honestly, sometimes those classes go for 2 hours. I'll just stay on the phone until we answer every lab, unless I have something urgent to do. So anyways, I'm just scrolling through, I'm just remembering Tuesday. I was like, oh man, that was a pretty long class. Okay, so we answer every week, every question, every doctor, every practitioner gets their, you know, needs met so you guys can go out and help your patients. And like I said, I'm still in practice myself. And I know when I was learning this stuff, if it's Tuesday night and I submitted my labs to Dr. Timmons, I didn't want to wait for 2 weeks for him to tell me what to do. There's a need to know kind of thing. There's a sense of urgency so you can keep your clinic running. So we really try to accommodate that, right? So let me review again real quickly 3 aspects to the class. There's the live Q&As, try to give you a little taste of that today. But the Q&As are interactive, right? We're talking and I'm talking, and then Carrie says, well, what about this treatment? And so you're not really seeing the whole thing here. It's me explaining the lab and then other doctors chiming in about what they would do or what they see, so it's a little bit of a discussion group, kind of case presentation group combo thing. So you get that. You get a community itself, right, which is this endless thousands of hours of materials that we've amassed, which is really a wonderful resource, and you can spend days in here. It's all really valuable, clinically relevant information. There's no filler. There's not a single 10 minutes of filler crap in here, okay? This is all like the mission critical stuff that you guys need. You get that, and then you get the actual course curriculum, right? So I'm pretty confident at this point we're delivering, in terms of value, probably about twice what we're charging for this thing. So it seems a little expensive, I know, on the surface, but once you get into the class and you start to attack it, I think you'll see what I mean. We do have, as I mentioned, some special arrangements with companies like Metagenics. So if Metagenics referred you over, and you want to take the class, just email the office. And let me go through. You guys are welcome to raise your hand and ask questions now, or just type in a question, and I'm going to answer the questions that were already sent in. Oh, okay. This is a good one. Who is the class best for? An experienced doctor or a doctor that's new? So we have most of the practitioners coming in, doctors, chiropractors, nurse practitioners, naturopaths, acupuncturists, nutritionists, wide range of different specialties coming in. Most of them are relatively new to functional medicine. New to me is less than 5 years doing functional medicine. Okay. And the curriculum works really well for people in that situation. We do get a very few, maybe 10 or 20% of the practitioners that take the class that have been in practice for 10, 20 years. And what they use is they use the class not to learn about how to treat the adrenals, but how to streamline and make a more effective office. So that does happen both ways. Mostly new people, but some really experienced doctors too. How the classes work in terms of times of day and setup. So you get access to the online curriculum right away, and you can watch those videos at any time. You get access to the full community right away, and you can go through those thousands of hours of stuff at your leisure. Everything is mobile friendly. You can do all this on your phone. I wouldn't recommend watching the video while you're driving, but you can listen to it for sure while you're driving, and a lot of people do. The live Q&A calls, we have both morning times and afternoon times. So they're usually around 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. California time and around 5 p.m. California time. Most of them are on Tuesdays. So whether you're in Australia or New Zealand or Chicago or New York or California, we try to structure it so we pretty much hit all time zones, okay? So you guys should be okay on that. Next question, how big are the classes? So the live calls tend to be 10 to 20 practitioners, somewhere around there. If it starts to get very much above 20, we'll just open up a new time. So there's a sense that there's some people in the group. There's never a sense that you're like don't get your voice heard or that there's too many doctors. Like I've never had that complaint ever. We're trying to keep it intimate, but enough practitioners that there's interaction and stuff like that. If I'm a nurse practitioner, can I take the course? Absolutely. We have tons of nurse practitioners. Again, so the specialty areas that we tend to get, medical doctors, osteopaths, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, acupuncturists, naturopaths, a fair number of RNs lately, people that have kind of more advanced degrees in clinical nutrition, Um, we don't do that well with health coaches. Usually it's hard for them to order the labs, so that you do need to have ability to order labs. And most of these companies will take all the licenses that just mentioned. Um, how is the class different than IFM? Okay, well I know a lot about that now, don't I? Because I'm actually on the IFM faculty. So I think of IFM as like the medical school, and the Kalish Institute courses are like the residency or internship program. So we're just 100% on the practical implementation side. That's it. And we're expecting, some basic knowledge of clinical nutrition or functional medicine, which you could acquire from a place like IFM. How long do you have access to the materials? Well, you know what? I think we changed the rules on that. I think you have access to the curriculum forever. We say lifetime. I don't know if it's my lifetime or your lifetime. I never really thought about that. It's probably my lifetime because if I'm dead, I don't know if this thing's going to still run. So as long as I'm alive, you have access to the course curriculum, right? And I update it every couple of years. I guess if you die, we're going to cut your access off. You can't like pass it on to your kids or something like that, but you get lifetime access, all right? And then let's see, what else? Oh, but the community after your year expires, we do require, if you want to stay in the community and you want to stay on the live calls, you do have to pay for that, okay? So you keep access to the actual curriculum, but the live calls and the community, you have to pay $199 a month to stay involved in all that, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable fee. You can still submit your labs. So even if that year has gone by and you still want some extra help, there's plenty of ability to do that, okay? Um, who teaches a live Q&A? So I teach 99% of this. We do have an assistant teacher that steps in on the rare occasion if I take a long vacation or something like that, but basically you're stuck with me. How many hours a week does a course take? Um, it's a 3 to 5 hour minimum commitment. Many people in the class have, 3 or 4 children, are working full time, managing the family, etc., as well as working as a practitioner full time in a practice. So most of the people in the class are super, super busy. We get the odd person here or there, again, who's retired or whose kids are all in college or who never had children or for some reason has, more free time, in which case you could easily spend 5 or 10 hours a week just looking at materials, right? But we're really kind of mostly accommodating to the busy working professional with children and trying to really keep that, keep the amount of time that is committed to this minimum so you can still have time with your family and time to build your practice and all that kind of stuff. Um, let me see. There are other questions here. Let's see. Dr. Webb, who I haven't talked to in a while, was asking, is it retroactive? I don't know. You have to ask my staff. I think not. It depends on what class you paid for and signed up for, because now it's a year-long program. Most of the older students did the program when it was 6 months, so you probably would not get access to the year-long thing unless you paid for the whole year. Karen asked, the time of the live calls. So the most popular ones are 9 a.m. California time, or that would be 12 noon New York time on Tuesdays, and 5 p.m. California time, which is 8 p.m. New York time on Tuesdays. So 9 a.m. or 5 p.m. California time. Those are the most popular. We also have the option of the 8 a.m. call time. That's a little more advanced of a call, but we can put people in there as well if for some reason you can't make the 9 a.m. Okay. And then everything is recorded. It's nice if you can make it to most of the live calls, but nobody goes to all of them. Most of obviously people attend the live calls when they're submitting labs themselves. But life gets in the way, kids get in the way, work gets in the way. So as you miss the live calls, you can just catch up the next day and listen to the recording. The only bummer about that is obviously you can't answer questions, or you can't ask questions and get them answered to because if it's recorded. Um, let's see. I think I covered all the questions here. All right. I'm gonna. Oh, here, Brian. Sorry. Oh, Brian, thank you for asking that question. I forgot about like the most important thing I was supposed to talk about. Sorry. Brian, thank you. This is embarrassing. So Brian asked, uh, can you take the My Practice Plan program along with the mentorship? So let me try to explain this. This is a really important question. So part of what happened in the last year is that I collaborated with IFM to develop the My Practice Plan course. Okay, this is an IFM Kalish Institute collaboration. I teach the whole thing, we host the whole thing, but IFM is endorsing it basically. So we have the 1-year mentorship program, which is all clinical, and then we have the My Practice Plan program, which is hardcore practice implementation, practice management. We have a lot of doctors now that are just signing up for both. Hallelujah. Just do them both together. Cram, work hard for a year and get your practice going. I totally endorse that. You can do both these programs together. In fact, Claire, I'm going to pick on Claire. Claire, are you here? Claire, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Dan.
I don't know what you're doing on this call, honey, but you're in
I don't
both
know.
classes,
Somehow
right?
I was flagged to be on this call, so I went, oh, okay. Well,
Okay. You are in both classes right now, correct?
I am in both classes right now.
Can you just give them an honest opinion about if that was a good idea or not? So let me just introduce. So Claire Catterin, she's been in really great practitioner, nurse practitioner in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's in the mentorship program and in my practice plan. I don't know why she's listening to this call tonight. We probably sent her an email by mistake or something. But just give them an honest opinion, Claire, about what that's like to do both side by side. Because Brian is asking, he's wondering.
Yeah, so I think that if you want to start your practice, you should take the implementation course because it's really important.
The my practice plan
There's
one.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
hold on a second. Let me just turn this off. Um, because there's so much information and there's so many ducks in a row, and if you want to be successful, it just takes a tremendous amount of just methodically going through the process of being
Yeah.
a successful. I'm sorry. This
No, but
phone
now was it too much for you? Now
being a
you've been doing both
successful.
calls. Oh, we lost Claire.
Was it too much? If you're not really serious into it, I wouldn't do it. I am
Yeah.
full court press. I took my IFM boards in the middle of doing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter just graduated from college, so I don't have any kids at home. But I was
Mm-hmm.
studying for my IFM boards, and I took them, and I passed. And I took the implementation course, and I took the mentorship course.
Yeah.
So clearly, my life has revolved around it. If you've got a lot of other things that are going on, it probably is not a good idea. But if you're like, no, I'm vortex focused, it's great. They work really well together. You get to know Dan really well, and I think it's a good way for Dr. Kalish to get to know you.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
I think there it's just an immense opportunity to really take a deeper dive and get the work done.
Yeah.
So I plan on still staying involved for the next year or so, and paying the extra money once my year is up because it's just too valuable to let go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Claire. I appreciate that. Again, I don't know why you're on this call, but anyways, let me see. Okay, let me see. Karen had a question. Let me grab her. And then Brian, let me grab Karen. Let me see if I can unmute you, Karen. Karen, are you there? If you don't have your phone hooked up, I can just read out the question too. I'm going to read out Karen's
Yes,
question.
can you hear
Oh,
me?
there you are. Yeah, there you're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you can. Oh, the question was about when can you? Yeah, we offer this class like 3 times a year, every year.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're not able to do it now, you can definitely sign up anytime in the future. It's fine.
Okay. 3 times a year is like in the quarter system that you're
Yeah,
offering, or
like we're
just
doing.
random?
Well, like we have. Well, this year. Well, there's September. There's another one in November, and then we'll
Mhm.
have one probably in the spring. So it's usually like one or two in the, well, let's see, February, June, September, November, something like that. It's either 3 or 4 starts every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. This program sounds so wonderful.
It is. It's like life changing for people, like people get on these calls and start crying. I'm not kidding. It's a really cool group of people, and it's everyone's trying to do the same thing. Everyone really wants to get a functional medicine practice
Mm-hmm.
built or improved, and so there's
Yeah.
this sort of synergy that there's this energy behind it that it's kind of hard to put into words until you actually are in the group.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we don't really, I mean, we really don't want people who are losers or whiners or not going to do stuff. It's a really action-oriented group of people. And
Uh-huh.
so, and not in a mean-spirited way, I don't mean that, but there's not a lot of downer energy people that do this class. It's a kind of expensive, and so people
Uh-huh.
really are pretty committed to it, and that just generates something that's kind of special. Uh, Anyways, we welcome you, Karen. And also, if you ever want
Yeah.
to set up a phone call, I'm happy to talk to you like one-on-one, and we can talk more about the class, okay?
That would be great. Will you be leaving your information so I can contact you on the?
Yeah, it's all right here on the website. Just go to
Oh,
Kalish Institute website,
uh-huh.
and all
Okay.
the emails and stuff here at the bottom of this page. You have all the contact infos here. So you can email us at info. There's a phone number here for students, etc. And I
Mm-hmm.
have a couple, three, four, five. I don't know how many staff. We got like a lot of people working there, so there's plenty of people to answer questions. And then I
Okay.
have I have doctor call times twice a month, twice a week, every Monday and Thursday. I call doctors that are interested in taking the class, and we can chat. Okay.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
Mhm. And then Brian asked, is the marketing part specific rate social media marketing? We have a lot of information on social media marketing, a lot. Like for example, if you just go to the search engine here and type in marketing. Well, first of all, there's a whole marketing class in the My Practice Plan. If you just look at that, how many videos right there on marketing, like probably more than you could ever watch. And none of these are all good. These are all like serious and helpful. And then within the My Practice Plan curriculum, it's not really the class we're talking about tonight, but in the My Practice Plan curriculum, we have a whole special module on marketing. Okay. Uh, let's see, Lisa. I'm completing IFM modules in October. Sign up for the mentorship. Will the practice plan be too much? Absolutely not. Like Claire just said, she was doing her exams for IFM, completing the modules, and in both classes. Okay, and it's absolutely not too much. In fact, I think it's usually time is of the essence. You don't want to delay your access to the information that's going to help you start your business. And I'm designing everything is like IFM friendly. I go to every single IFM module and I'm on stage speaking at every module. I go to every IFM, AFM, CP, and I am on stage speaking at those. So I have my pulse on the my finger on the pulse of IFM in a really intense way right now. And we can absolutely integrate my programs with IFM, no problem. You can do all these things simultaneously. And in fact, and something like with Claire, it's almost better to do that for a lot of people so that you don't end up frozen and stuck and not being able to move forward, and that's kind of one of the big problems that we see with a lot of people. Um, and also, just as like I don't know, as an aside, we never want people to do stuff that's not absolutely in your highest interest, right? So like if you're in the My Practice, if you're in the mentorship and you do an extra class with us and it's too much, we'll just give you your money back. You can back out of it. But the whole point of the Kalish Institute is to get you guys what you need when you need it and get you trained and not overwhelm you, right? And so we're not just trying to sell you a bunch of stuff. We're trying to get you to run your practice properly and quickly. And so, I always am trying to think, and this is why I've been so successful, what's in the best interest of this particular practitioner, and not try to sell you things that are going to be overwhelming, and then the whole thing falls apart, right? We're not trying to do that. We're really trying to build practices. I judge my success on whether you make money helping people, within a year or so of taking my course. If you're not actively engaged in the business of functional medicine and you don't have a highly profitable practice, then I basically failed. Okay, and we don't really want that to happen because then that's bad, right? And my whole purpose is lost. All right, so I'm going to wrap up now. This is a great group, though. If you have questions, let us know. I'm here. Our contact information's on the website here. This whole evening was recorded. If you want to listen to any part of it again, there's a new class starting. Let me see when it is. I don't even know. Uh, let's see here. Oh, look, there's a special offer. Look at us. So if you sign up by September 14th, use this promo code VIP SEP 2018. You save $1,000 on a 1-year mentorship. Okay, again, you save $1,000 if you just enter that code when you sign up. Class officially starts September 25th. It looks like we gave you like a week or so to decide. You're welcome to call and talk with myself. You can call and talk or email and talk with Mark about whether the class is good for you or not, good fit for you or not. Okay. And again, you get $1,000 off on the 1-year class if you sign up by the 14th. And if you forget that promo code, just email us and we can give it to you again. I'm really excited about this group. In the fall, we're going to have a really good group. I can tell already. We've had a fair number of signups. It's going to be a really rocking group. There will be one more group before the year ends in November. So if you want to do the class, but September 25th doesn't work, you can put a deposit down now and be in the November group. November 13th will be the last group for this year, all right? And I think we've got everything covered. I hope you all are well and doing well out there in the world and surviving the crazy times that we are living in right now. If you're wondering how I'm coping, I stopped reading the newspaper. That's my way of dealing with current affairs. Anyways, I hope you guys are great. Catch up with you soon. Bye for now.